Hello and welcome to this higher tier GCSE lesson on circles. Our Do Now task, however, is based on the end of the previous chapter. So we're going to make X the subject of the following formulae. Write down each formula and show your working. Pause the video while you work through these. Okay, here are your answers. Mark your work. Pause the video while you do that. Okay, so today's lesson is on the circumference and area of circles. Now, some of you may recognise that this was covered in Year 8, so for those people, this will be mostly a recap. So the first thing to look at is this number that you can see on the screen. So this is the ratio of the circumference of a circle to its diameter, and it's always the same for every circle. So if we calculated the circumference divided by the diameter of any circle, we would always get 3.1415965, and that number goes on forever with no repeats, which is called an irrational number. And because it doesn't have any repeats, it can't be written any shorter than that. It's given a symbol, so it's given the Greek letter pi to represent that number. So the circumference is the perimeter of a circle. And we've got this formula, C for circumference equals pi d. D is for the diameter, which you can see on the diagram. That is the length across the middle of a circle. Now, as the diameter is equal to twice the radius, it can also be written as C equals 2 pi r. We can see from that second diagram on the top right that the radius, there are two radii going across the middle of the circle. So it depends on whether you're given the diameter or the radius as to which formula you use. So copy these down into your exercise books so you've got both formulae. Pause the video while you do that. Okay, here is an example. We'll copy this down, including a sketch of the circle. So we want to calculate the circumference of the circle, and we're going to give our answer to three significant figures. So we've got the formula C equals pi d. We're given the diameter, so we'll use this formula. So it's going to be pi times 5.6, which if we were asked to give our answer in terms of pi, we would have this as our answer, 5.6 pi. But we're told significant figures, so we'll type it into the calculator and then round it. So we will get that C, the circumference, equals 17.6 centimetres to three significant figures. Now, as a minimum amount of working, you should be writing pi times 5.6 and the final answer. So for each of these questions, you're going to calculate the circumference of the circle and you're going to round all of your answers to three significant figures. Do check what is labelled to see which formula you will use, whether you've got the diameter or the radius. Pause the video while you work through them. Okay, here are your answers. Let's mark these. Pause the video where necessary. Okay, let's look at the next bit. That is the area of a circle. So the area is given by this formula, A equals pi r squared. So let's make sure we've got this copied down. Okay, so here's an example. We'll copy it down, including a sketch. It says, calculate the area of the circle. Give your answer in terms of pi. So this is the formula for the area. A equals pi r squared. So that means we're going to be doing pi times 6 squared. And since we know 6 squared, our answer is going to be A, area, equals 36 pi, and we are in metres squared. Part B says give your answer to three significant figures. So if we know that the area is 36 pi, we can use the SD button on the calculator to convert that into a decimal and then round this. So we're going to have 113 metres squared. Okay, these are the same circles as before. We're now going to calculate the area of them. Just check that when you're given the diameter, remember to half this value to get the radius. Pause the video while you work through these. Okay, let's mark them. Here are your answers. Pause the video if necessary. Okay, so we're now going to have a look at some shapes that are part of circles. So here we can see we've got 3/4 of a circle, and we want to calculate the area and perimeter of this. We're going to copy this into your exercise books, and it's really useful to have a sketch with this so you can see what you are doing. So the first thing we're going to do is work out the area. Now we know for a circle that A equals pi r squared, but since this is 3/4 of a circle, the area of this shape is going to be 3/4 of pi r squared. So we're going to substitute the 5 in for the radius. And if it was giving our answer in terms of pi, we would simplify to get 75 over 4 pi. And since we can give our answer in terms of a decimal, we'll type this in and round. So we're going to have 58.9 centimetres squared to 3 significant figures. Now for the perimeter of this shape. Still the same shape, so we don't need a second diagram. We know for a circle that the circumference is pi d, or 2 pi r. Now here we've used the 2r to get the 10, so we've got 3/4 of pi times 10. Answer in terms of pi, 15 over 2 pi. I'm not going to work that out just yet because this isn't finished yet. All we've worked out is the curved part, because the circumference is the curved part of the circle. So for the perimeter, we've got the curved part plus 2 radii, the straight edges. Radii is plural of radius. So we're going to have this 15 over 2 pi plus 2 lots of 5. So as our non-calculator answer, or our answer in terms of pi, we would have 15 over 2 pi plus 10, and we'd write that in brackets to show that the centimetres is for that whole value. Then type it into your calculator if you need a decimal answer, and we'll end up with 33.6 centimetres to 3 significant figures. Do not forget to include the straight edges. Have a go at these questions. It will be very useful for you to sketch the shape for each question, since each question is a slightly different shape. Do not forget the straight edges for the perimeter. Pause the video while you work through these. Here are your answers for area and perimeter. Pause the video while you mark them. Okay, let's have a look at a different example. So this shape uses a circle, but it also isn't quite a semicircle. So we're going to copy this down, we'll sketch the shape and label it. Now what you may notice is that this is a semicircle and a rectangle. If you put in the dotted line to separate the two shapes, that will help you visualise what you need to do. So to work out the area of this shape, we are going to work out the area of a semicircle plus a rectangle. So we've got half of pi r squared plus the rectangle, which is length times width. Now the radius is not obvious here. What we can see is that this length of the rectangle is 6 centimetres. And what we know about rectangles, the length of the opposite side is 6 centimetres, which is the diameter of this circle. So the radius is going to be half of that value, which is 3. So what we're going to work out is half of pi times 3 squared plus 6 times 2. So our answer in terms of pi is 9 over 2 pi plus 12. Remember that all has to go in brackets to show that the whole thing has got centimetres squared with it. And if we are doing a decimal answer, we can type that into our calculator and round it to get 26.1 centimetres squared to 3 significant figures. So let's have a go at these questions. Question A was the example, so start on question B. make sure you sketch the diagram for these. Pause the video while you work through them. Okay, here are your answers. Pause the video while you mark those. Okay, here are some problem-solving questions. You may find it helpful to draw a diagram and label it. Pause the video while you work through them. The answer to question 4 is 8.80 metres. The answer to question 5 is 4. That'll be 4 revolutions that the roller makes. The answer to question 9, the claim is correct because the ratio is just over 1.5 to 1. And question 13, complete revolutions is 45. Here's an extension question. Okay, pause the video while you work through it. We have numerical answers. Remember, these are in terms of pi, so technically question A should be 2 pi, but it's just using the numerical part of this. Okay, so we've looked at the circumference and area of a circle. We've looked at being able to calculate the radius of a circle, or the area in the perimeter of a compound shape, and hopefully most of you managed to get on quite well with the problem-solving questions. Here's one final question to finish us off on this topic. Pause the video while you work through it. Okay, you should have 9 pi centimetres squared. Now the working for that, the diameter of that large circle is 10 metres. So just be very careful there. You're 8 metres in this small diameter, and we're labelled here, this length is 1 metre, but it's also 1 metre at the other side. So just be careful there. So we have that the large circle area is 25 pi, the small circle area is 16 pi. So subtract the small from the large, which gives us that 9 pi centimetres squared. And that is the end of this lesson. Goodbye.